A very hello and welcome to Blackpool Pleasure Beach's opening day here from the 1st of March. I am currently here stood in the south end of the park where we have Icon, the big one, and what was Skyforce. So Skyforce is one of the 5 rides that has been listed to be closed all year this year. Put in a social media post and on the park's website just a few weeks ago. If you remember from one of the Nickelodeon Land half-term updates I did, when I was stood down by the maze entrance, I talked about the 5 rides that are closed, and one of them being Skyforce, that you can see just here. So every single bit of theming is still in place. We have the planes all here at the minute. We actually have the ride structure all still in place here with the ride station and queue line, and we even have the old ride shop that is still all intact as well. Unsure if this ride is going to be getting removed this season or they're going to wait till close season end of this year, but it is going to be a shame just seeing another standing but not operating attraction in the Pleasure Beach, because as I say, it's not the only ride that's going to be sitting here looking like an eyesore here. We do have another 4 other attractions that are going to be sadly standing but not operating. Another one is going to be the other side of the Skyforce shop, the Golden Gallopers, the big carousel down there. That's normally across from the big one. That's sadly closed all year as well. So at the minute, it's not looking like a positive sign for Pleasure Beach, but hopefully once they start removing these rides, we can get new and exciting things coming in the places, and we can obviously forget about all the sad times and negative outlooks at the park currently. Because as well as the 5 rides being closed, we do have, of course, the Grand Prix, which was removed last year. We have the River Caves, which is closed again, I'm guessing most of this year, but they have put a new sign up down there hinting that it's getting a refurbishment, and maybe like what Valhalla did, like a proper restoration kind of work. And also across from the River Caves we have the Bowl-a-Drome building, which is now fully covered behind black construction walls, but we don't understand what's happening at all with that building as well. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting video today, showing you the parts of the park I wasn't able to throughout the whole winter season, and of course back from February half term. So without further ado, let's show on this update today. So an up close look here at Skyforce, at the actual ride structure where the seats would be attached. And as I mentioned, when I was literally stood outside the park down there getting some testing footage in the off season, I did say had was like bin bags around where the seats would be, and while you can clearly see that is literally what they are. They're literally just bin bags taped onto the bottom of the arms where all 12 seats would be. The wings and the backs of the planes are just in the building over there. I don't really know if you can make them out. They're just in the building over there as well, and I'm not too sure what's under this blue canopy here either. Probably more maintenance equipment from the ride itself, but it's all been tied up, tied down, so it doesn't go anywhere in winds and any strong weather. But it is very sad to see Skyforce here. I mean, if it's been sold or getting sold, fair enough, but at the minute it's just another eyesore here in the park. And we mentioned a lot about eyesores last year, didn't we, in 2024, so let's hope it's not going to be a repeat of that in 2025. But at least we do have a new revitalised attraction this year, Ice Blast into Launchpad, which will be opening later this year, probably about summertime. But at the minute, this is the current state of Skyforce, and I'm not too sure, I've never heard of any removal plans for it just yet, apart from it just sitting here looking sorry for itself, which is a shame. So a look here at the seats and harnesses for the Skyforce attraction, or what was a Skyforce attraction, just here in the old Skyforce shop, which was later changed into base camp, which would be your mating point for what the woodies and what the big ones. But you can see all 12 seats just behind the doors there, all in there, and the harnesses just all piled up down there as well. And as I said, the actual wings and the backs of the planes, like the rudder, the themed rudder, is in the station building behind here. But at the minute, all 12 seats and harnesses are currently sitting here in the old Skyforce shop. So we'll look here now at the entrance plaza for the Skyforce attraction. Can't go any closer, I'm afraid. There was a barrier here blocking the way, but you can still see the old, what was the old opening hours for the ride, the queue board, that's all there, and some of the queue line fencing is all still intact. Queue building also intact, obviously, and the signage has been removed from this entrance pole as well. So everything is up in the air at the minute with Skyforce, apart from it being closed this year and a potential removal some point this year into the end of the year as well. Not too sure how well it might pick it up though, but the backs of the planes are inside that building now, just through that door. You can maybe see the themed rudder, like the Union Jack rudder, and maybe the wings are in there as well. But yeah, that's your look at Skyforce, I'm afraid. Closed for 2025 and possible removal at some point in the year. So, the current state of Skyforce. And it's quite sad really, because it didn't even make it to its 10th year of operation. It was only a 9-year-old ride that it managed to do. So, but it was never going to be as exciting as what when Bling used to stand here from 2004 to 2011. That was a lot more enjoyable and exciting ride compared to what Skyforce ever was when it opened here in 2015. Right, one of the second rides to close for this year is the Golden Gallopers that you can see here just to the side of the big one, which is noisily making its way up the lift hill. So yeah, we started off with Skyforce, you can see way in the distance over there, and now moved on here to the carousel, which is the Golden Gallopers. This is another ride the park sadly announced is closing this year, and again its future is unknown at the park, whether much like Skyforce it's been sold, it's being removed, or it'll come back at a later date. Nobody knows at the minute, apart from it's closed this year. But this is another ride, or one of the 4 rides as I say, that is based obviously at families, kids, and another one that would help the crowds for these rides that are down here, because you used to have 4 rides with big one, Skyforce, Steeplechase and Gallopers. Now you've only got 2 rides to try and soak up the queues for this area, with obviously Skyforce and the carousel here being closed up for this year. But when the fences were out just behind me by the maze entrance, I did notice that there was no height boards here, queue boards or anything, so I thought it might be a similar situation as what I last received last year, how it was going to end up being closed. And well, as I predicted, it is closed this year, and as the park clearly stated, Skyforce and this is closed. So we'll move on to the other attractions to tell you what rides are closed as well. So not listed on the park's announcement for closed rides was the Dodgems. Now the Dodgems is a bit of an interesting one really. It opened last year, ran okay up until about the summertime, and then it mysteriously closed and the cars mysteriously vanished as well. And when I was in the February half-term event, we mentioned when I was stood up on the balcony up there how the cars still haven't reappeared at all, and there was no news on what is actually happening with this attraction. But from the entrance, the signs have all gone, the queue boards have gone, the opening hours have gone, and there's not a lot left here of the Dodgems at the minute. But as I said, compared to the other attractions that the park's announced, we don't know what's happening with this one, so it's a mystery tour with the Dodgems at the minute. All we do know is the music is still blasting out in there, but you can't get in, there was a barrier there. When the queue line and infrastructure is all still in place, so I'm not too sure what they can put here if they do end up demolishing the building, because it's a very small space, and the Dodgems replaced the classic whip that used to be here back in the day. So Dodgems, unknown mystery at the moment in time. So just across from the Dodgems we do have what was the Eddie Stobart Convoy Ride. Now when I was stood up there by Pizza Kitchen, I did mention how the big yellow building here was the station building for the ride, and how they had painted up randomly last year the old control box here. They had painted that last year, which is a bit weird really. Why would you paint something up to then just shut it down? It seems a bit odd and a bit of like a waste of time, waste of money on painting it up. But the queue line again is all still here, the infrastructure is all still in place. It's just literally the same as the other rides. The height board, the opening hours have all vanished, but all the track is still in place, CCTV, everything. So yeah, you can see the track here all in place. The waterfall's still on, and the little model of Evolution is all still back there. As I say, everything is all still intact with this ride. Nothing has actually happened apart from the cars, the vehicles, the Eddie Stobart trucks, whatever you want to call them, are missing. I would imagine they're probably in maintenance back of Valhalla somewhere. But sadly, this attraction is one of the ones that the park did list to be closed this year. Normally the circle up there would house the name for the ride, but sadly gone for this year. Is another family ride. So we have the Golden Gallopers next to the big one, the big carousel, closed. This is closed. And just across the way over there we do have the Thompson Carousel and the Alpine Rally. You can't really see it from this angle. I may go up into the Avalanche queue line to show it. But the Alpine Rally was basically a smaller version of the Grand Prix, which you can still see some of the Grand Prix track up here. And the Thompson Carousel is effectively a smaller version of the carousel that's part of the big one. So yeah, you've got at least 4 family kids rides that have all closed this year, which is a shame really, because it's not offering a lot of attraction for kids. This whole slogan being more to experience was actually less to experience for families. I mean, yes, you've got Nickelodeon Land, but some of the rides in there are pretty intense for kids, like Avatar Airbender and Nickelodeon Streaks. They're pretty high intense thrill rides, whereas these 4 rides in this area were all based at the kids and for families. I mean, granted, they were on reduced hours anyway, and they did have staff swapping the ride, so the staff member who would be on here for a few hours would then say move over to operate them rides for a few hours. So yeah, they were on sort of like the last legs anyway with being on reduced hours, but to shut them down completely is a bit of a shame. But at least the park did announce it, unlike last year where we had to be guessing and rumouring what was happening with like the Dodgems and River Caves and Ice Blast as well. And whilst I'm in this area, a little bit of a mention for the Grand Prix. I said you can still see some of the track work up there, the old bridge underneath Avalanche. Well, it used to cross over the pathway here, and you can see they have actually chopped that little bit out. They have got rid of that little bit of track that will go over the pathway there, which leads up to Icon's entrance. So a little bit of demolition work has also happened there on the Grand Prix, as well as obviously the Helix that happened towards the end of last year. So interesting times for the park ahead, but it does all link up though. If you remove the Grand Prix from all of this area, get rid of the Alpine Rally and Carousel there, get rid of the Eddie Stobart, it's all in a similar area, isn't it, for the park to put something new in the Grand Prix place and this area's position in the future years. So it's going to be an interesting few years here at the park, and I really hope it's a positive one for them in the future. Just a close-up look here at what was the Alpine Rally and the Thompson Carousel you can see there. As I said, like I'm repeating myself once again, just the infrastructure is still all in place, like the ride, the track, the signage, the theming. The only bits that have left is once again the ride's name, signage, anything relating to the ride like the keyboard, stuff like that, have all left the attractions area. But in terms of the actual attractions, they're here apart from the cars for the Alpine Rally. They've gone missing, probably again behind Valhalla somewhere, and the carousel is there under sheets as well. And you can just make out the control box, which would share both of these attractions up there as well. Now the Alpine Rally is a former attraction. It used to be over by the Space Invader building when that area used to be Beaver Creek, but sadly that got replaced with Nickelodeon Land, and the big circus bounce attraction used to be in that area of the park. And the Thompson Carousel, I believe, used to be up in Beaver Creek somewhere as well. I can't picture where it used to be. I think it was where the taxi ride is now. But here you have an up close shot here of the Alpine Rally. Thompson Carousel closed for this year, marking the 5 rides closed for 2025, which is Skyforce, Golden Gallopers by the big one, the Eddie Stobart Convoy Ride, Alpine Rally, and obviously the Thompson Carousel here, with the mystery Dodgems not been announced, but from the state of it at the minute, doesn't look like it's going to be returning any time soon. And there's another look over at the bit of the Grand Prix track that they did chop away during the closed season. A little bit of the structure there is missing, so you can get a nice clear view straight through at Icon there as well. So I'll probably move over towards the River Caves and see what we can see over there. Probably not a lot, with it being a dark ride like I mentioned a lot last year. A look here at the former Grand Prix Helix area. If you remember it from the previous updates that I did from February half term, when I was stood up there where the monorail track comes out, I did sort of like a little aerial view up there, how they had sort of tidied up the area, flattened the soil in preparation for what I thought would have been grass to be laid. That might still be the case, might just be waiting for the delivery on the grass that is to come to make it a bit more of a nicer picturesque area at the minute. But at the minute they have put these temporary barriers around the outside of the site here, and they are obviously going to be waiting on probably that delivery of grass to be coming, because we've left the fountain all intact here, left all the trees intact, but the track does start once again under the bridge there, which goes down to the big one and back, apart from that small section that I said they have demolished over by the Eddie Stobart Convoy Ride. But here's just a little panoramic view here of the Grand Prix, or the former Grand Prix site. But it is good at the minute now. They have actually reopened the sensory garden, which is there. As you can see, the barrier goes all the way along here, making sure you can go in to go all the way back out of there as well. So an aerial view here at the former Grand Prix Helix area. Interestingly, they have filled up the fountain here, which was obviously turned off for the demolition work. But yeah, they have filled the trough back up again. So I would imagine once they have fully finished making the area a bit more of a better area to sort of look at, relax at, they will turn the fountain back on to make it much more appealing for everybody. Because at the minute it's looking at muddy soil and bits of lumps of rock and concrete everywhere. It isn't the best. With having a temporary boundary fence around the area, it isn't sort of the best way at the minute. But as I said, during the February half-term event, I would have thought it would have had that maybe grass delivery of some kind, even if it's just fake grass after AstroTurf. It would make it just look a little bit better than what it currently is. But there is time. It is just the first day of the park reopening. We have got the whole year. Maybe get ready for the summer season when it's a lot busier to get it open, so people can sit down here, relax, and just take in the hot weather and the rides going around. But we do have the station all there still intact. Still see the slow down bit where the track would go back in, and we do have the track still down there underneath the bridge leading down to the big one. So that's going to be your Grand Prix look here today from opening day. Probably head on down now to the River Caves and potentially over to Launchpad towards the end of the video. So there's not going to be an awful lot to talk about with the River Caves, with it being obviously an indoor attraction. We don't know what's happening on the inside at all. The park haven't announced anything. Apart from that, it is getting something, and an announcement will be made in the next few months or so. But the outdoor portion here all looks the same as it did practically last year. No changes that I can see visibly with the outdoor bit. But they have put a sign here on the entrance of the ride. The keyboard and the opening hours do remain though for the River Caves, but they have put this sign up stating that it is technically getting a refurbishment, pretty much like what Valhalla got the few years that it was closed. So hopefully maybe this year, or maybe 2026, March 2026, this ride will be back open for us to enjoy, because River Caves is one of those rides where you can go in on a rainy day. So the other side of the River Caves is the former Planet Rock building, which you can see the dome back there, and the Bowl-a-Drome arcade building. But for this year they have put this big black and very long construction wall starting here at the fountains and working its way all the way up to the Big Dipper up there. So yeah, this has been rumoured for a while, the building could potentially be knocked down at some point for future expansion. Whether that's still going to be happening, I'm unsure, but when we were on the big one and Big Dipper earlier, there is usually a set of stairs that go down the side of the ramp. They have been demolished, and the toilet block that is down there, or was down there, has all been demolished as well. So demolition is still possibly on the cards for the buildings. We just don't know when that could be happening. here at the park, but when I was on the big one, you can see there, you can get a great aerial view looking down here at the site, and there was a lot of guttering, a lot of holes in the buildings with the stairs being demolished. And when we were doing our winter walk around videos from the tunnel on the promenade, you could see piles of rubble, piles of debris everywhere in the car park that is situated behind the buildings here. So hopefully in its latter months, this building will no longer be here and future development can start and potentially new things on the horizon. Just a quick update here from the Grand National. Now, this attraction isn't closed, it's not one of the closed rides for this year, it's just having some extended maintenance ready for its 90th birthday, which is some point this year. So the park did announce that it's going to be shut for the first few months of the 2025 season, and hopefully back up maybe for Easter or the summer season, I'm guessing. So all 4 trains are still in the main car park for now, and I'm guessing the track, and hopefully getting some retracking work somewhere on it, because it definitely does need it, and a proper refurbishment, maybe a paint up in some spots as well, ready for its 90th anniversary. So yeah, the Grand National will be back later this year after it's had just some extended maintenance, ready for its 90th birthday. So yeah, Grand National closed then for the first few months of this 2025 season. It is a good ride, don't get me wrong, the National is very fun. You're racing 2 trains around the ride, and obviously swapping over at somewhere point on its layout, and then on the other side of the station being a Mobius loop. But yeah, at least the ride's going to be getting some extra TLC to make it ready for this year's 90th birthday, and hopefully to do a party like they did for Big Dipper's 90th and 100th, because the Grand National is pretty iconic. There's not a lot of these types of wooden coasters or these types of attractions being a Mobius loop out there in the world. I'm pretty sure there might be 2 or 3 out there, could be wrong on that. But yeah, the Grand National will be back at some point this year. So yeah, let's head over to the main event, talk about Ice Splash, or Launchpad I should say, in the distance. So the final ride I want to touch on today will be Launchpad, formerly Ice Blast and PlayStation back in the day. Now, the park did paint it. They started painting it towards the end of last season. At the very top, painted it a blue colour, and of course throughout the whole winter season they have painted it all the way down to the bottom now, so you can see that vibrant space blue that they put it in. And just the other week they did fit the new pressure pipe, being a new shiny white pipe in there, replacing the old blue one. And whilst we were in the park in the half-term videos, we did see them putting on the topper right up there as well. We stood by Wallace and Gromit, and we did notice them putting on the top of the tower back onto the ride structure. So now it's just a matter of time of taking the scaffolding down, putting the ride gondola back on, and for testing to commence. But I'm not expecting it to be open possibly Easter, maybe the summer season, because there is a lot of work still to happen here with Launchpad, getting everything connected up with the new launching system, obviously taking the scaffolding down and getting everything else ready for opening to begin. I mean, we still need to replace the sign up there anyway, but it does still say Ice Blast. That needs to be replaced. We need to get some theming elements, if it's going to be getting any, around the ride layout and the ride area. You need to have some like space stuff, like maybe meteorite rocks, planets, anything, little rockets anywhere. But at the minute it just looks like the same as Ice Blast, apart from it's got a new shiny blue colour. Just a closer look here at Launchpad at the bottom, taking a note of the blue paint that they did throughout the off season. Yeah, I quite like the new blue paint, if I'm honest. Didn't think I would from when we noticed it at the very top of the structure last year, but now it's on and settled for the past few months or so. Yeah, I quite like the new colour. Just can't wait to finally get back on it and see if it's back to how it used to ride, nice and fast, up and down, with plenty of airtime, because in its later years, Ice Blast, it wasn't a brilliant, really. It was more like an observation tower. You can get more thrills jumping up and down, but hopefully with this new pressure cylinder inside it, it'll be back to what it used to be, nice, fast, up and down. Sadly not going to be a combo tower, which I was hoping for, how it obviously would shoot you up, and then later in the ride it would shoot you down. It is still going to be the same type of ride system, how it's just a launch up and then it's done, but hopefully it'll be back to how it used to be back in its early days when it was PlayStation. A look at Launchpad from the Valhalla side, and I'll just show you the queue for Valhalla in a second. It's surprisingly very long for opening day, but the weather for a change has actually been pretty kind. No wind, no rain, nice and sunny and fairly warm-ish, about 12 degrees. So unlike most opening days, it's turned out remarkably well. But yeah, look here at the Launchpad from Valhalla side, and you can just make out the new white pressure cylinder pipe you can see in the centre there, which they did put in about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago if that. And as I said, we did notice the topper that was put on as well, so I'll put a link to that video if you want to see that being put on just from the other day. As for the queue, all remains the same as we saw last year throughout the season. No changes happening with the infrastructure of the queue line or anything around here. The queue boards and opening hours haven't returned yet, but the tower is now shiny and blue. But imagine they're just doing final preparation work, linking up wiring, piping to the new pressure cylinder to make sure it can begin testing once this scaffolding does come down. So let's just have a look then at the Valhalla queue. Fairly long, to be fair. I think it's in about its 4th cattle pen up and down, so I don't really know how long that would be. Maybe about 30 minutes or so, because I don't really know how many boats Valhalla runs on these days since its refurbishment. Maybe this year will be the year I finally get to go on it, but who knows. It all depends on the right type of weather. It needs to be really hot for me to go on Valhalla, and it all depends on what time I do come in the park as well, because sometimes I tend to come in just for the afternoons really. I don't fancy walking around the park absolutely dripping wet through, because sadly Valhalla is now on a reduced opening hours. It only opens at 2 o'clock in the afternoon up until park close, so half the day's gone really. Only opening at 2 is normally the times that I would go on it, is normally in the morning, so I can spend the rest of the day getting dry until park closing. But that's going to do for this update today, looking at the various rides closed like Skyforce, Golden Gallopers, Dodgems, Eddie Stobart, Thompson Carousel and the Alpine Rally, as well looking at the River Caves, see what's happening down there, having a look at the Bowl-a-Drome Planet Rock building, and mention how some demolition work has happened if you go on either the Big Dipper or Big One and look down at it. Look here at Grand Ice Blast being Launchpad, and we looked at Grand National, how that will be back open later in the year. So if you've enjoyed this first inside the park from the full park opening today, hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe so you don't miss any more of these regular Pleasure Beach updates, and I'll see you all again very soon.